And welcome back to another edition of Facebook Live on the Undisputed Champion Network. And we have a very special guest. It's an extended remix version of Gloves Off. Yes, he's back from Youngstown. Youngstown's finest, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ray, how you been?
I'm good, Steve. Everything's good, thank you. I miss you guys, man. I miss doing the show. It's been a while.
Ray, you could say it. You don't have to offend anyone in Youngstown. You miss paradise. Look at that weather outside. Look at that weather outside. Come on.
The weather is spectacular. It truly is. But you know what? I love the people of Youngstown. I love being home. I do. It's a good time for me to be home. I'm comfortable there. People seem to be happy I'm there. And we're doing some things. The town's on the climb.
And I know one thing you don't miss about this, 405. Sig alerts. That's one thing you don't miss.
That I don't miss. You just said. The one thing I come back and you talk about the weather, you talk about the restaurants, you talk about the ambiance of everything else. But as soon as you get into traffic, you go, oh, hell no. I don't miss this crap.
We've got a lot of things to talk about. And Ray Mancini, as always, we call it gloves off because he lets his hands go, and he's going to give an unfiltered, unbiased, just a blatantly honest look at what he thinks about the state of boxing today. Now, this was interesting, Ray. Me and you, we text each other once in a while. Now, about 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, as the announcement was made that Canelo Alvarez was going to drop the BC belt and basically hand it over to Gennady Golovkin and basically delay the fight for about a year or so, you sent me a preamble on text. I mean, literally, your fingers moved really quickly. And I just want you to know, next time you could just either call me or send me an email. But just give me your thoughts on Canelo Alvarez and his actions in delaying the fight with Golovkin.
Well, first of all, anybody who gives up the title, what does it mean now? Well, how much respect can you have for a title that you're willing to throw it in trash or give it up?
It's been done before.
Yeah, it's been done, but and that's the problem. If you have respect for the title, that's probably, it makes, as bad as boxing looks in many other ways, when guys give up titles or throwing it in the trash, it's terrible. The fact that he doesn't give up the title, just how it's his way of saying, I don't want the fight. The fact that they said, now, I love the fact that his promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, says, the fight's going to be made. We're going to, next November of 2017, we're going to let the fight marinate. No, the fight is marinated. It's ready to be fed. It's ready to go. Any more marination, it's going to be saturated in fat. You can't get this any more marinated. The fight's ready to go. Last thing, and then what I told you, Steve, remember, when Ray and Tommy wanted to fight, they said to Bob, their manager, Mike Trainer and Manny Stewart got together. Like you said, it was an easy negotiation. Yeah. They told Bob, make the fight. They called the shots. Promoters, every fighter has to understand. Promoters, managers, trainers, they all work for you. You tell them, I want that fight. Now, they may say, well, you're not ready yet, or it's not ripe yet. A couple more months. But not a year and a half down the road. Especially Canelo and Jersey, stop. It's ready to go now. And anytime you delay it, and all it's saying is that De La Hoya is saying, I want a chance to make some more money with the guy before he gets his ass whipped.
Now, Ray, with that being said, let's go back to the night of May 7th at the T-Mobile Arena. I was there. He scores a big knockout over Amir Khan, as expected. Then he calls Golovkin into the ring, and then he basically said, us Mexicans don't play around. How much are you holding that against him, those actions?
Well, quit saying stupid stuff like that if you ain't going to live up to it. You want to say you swing a big one? Then live up to it. Just say, I want that fight. They're saying November of 2017. What happened to this November? That's what I could text you. What happened to this November? That's 6 months away or 4 months away. That's all the fight needs to be. Call the fight. If the fight was made today, they could do the dog and pony show for 6 weeks and be ready to go.
Yeah, I think they're talking September of 2017, which is one of the traditional Mexican pay-per-view dates. Now, here's the thing. He is going to be fighting Liam Smith. He's going back down to 154 for the WBO title. All right, I know what your thoughts are on that fight. But what about Gennady Golovkin now facing a welterweight in Kell Brook?
I understand. And that's what their argument's going to be. He just fought Amir Khan, a welterweight, or actually junior welterweight, who moved up and took the shot. I admire Kell Brook taking a shot. But what I love, and I've said this repeatedly about Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, is I got a schedule. You're either in or in the way. You want to fight? No, move over. You want to fight? Okay, you come and get the fight. That's the point. They got a schedule. They're on a fast track, and either you're in or in the way. They're not waiting for nobody, and I love that. So people say, he ain't fighting nobody. He's fought anybody they put in front of him. He's called out everybody and anybody. Nobody stepped up. Let me tell you something. Dominic Wade, Willie Monroe would be headaches for a lot of these guys. He made it look easy. That's just how good he is. But the point being is, he's called out Canelo. That's to get the fight made this year. the prime time for fights, February, sweeps period, May, September, November. So they're saying September of next year. What about November of this year? What happened, Steve?
Well, I think there's already other pay-per-view dates. And to be fair, Canelo will be fighting in September and then December. I think the
Not
fight
Triple
will
G.
Well,
Not
no.
Triple G.
Well, that's
won't.
another story.
And it could be happening. The fight could have been made.
The people that say that Gennady Golovkin is doing exactly what Saul Alvarez did in facing a welterweight, I don't think it's exact. I think it's similar but not the same.
No.
Last I checked, Amir Khan was knocked out a couple of times. Kell Brook wasn't. Kell Brook is undefeated. Amir Khan wasn't. Also, Kell Brook is considered by many the best welterweight in the world. And the other issue is Gennady Golovkin, I think, has a problem. From your vantage point, you've been around the sport longer than me. Is the ducking and dodging of Gennady Golovkin, in your mind, unprecedented?
I haven't seen it in a long, long time. I mean, last time I remember seeing it, guys didn't want to step in the ring with Tyson, but that's a whole different thing. Tyson was a heavyweight. These guys, where are they going to go? Some of these guys now are trying to say, well, I'll go up, I'll move up 2 divisions to dodge this guy, whatever it is. Yeah, I have not seen this in years. And what bothers me is these so-called great fighters, I'm only going by my era, and that's all I could go by. In the era of Tommy, Ray, Benitez, Duran, they would have stepped in. They did. They stepped up to fight Marvin. They did do it. So here's the problem. Kell Brook, here's the other thing. Amir Khan he's not a big welterweight.
Right.
Kell Brook is a big welterweight, more like a junior middleweight.
Yeah.
Probably walks around 56, 57. What I look at it as Ray Robinson moved up to fight Jake LaMotta for a middleweight title, and then back in those days, I look at it as Carmen Basilio moved up to fight Ray Robinson for the middleweight title, where welterweight moved up to fight for the middleweight title and won the middleweight title, as Basilio did and Robinson did. So it's happened many times through the years. But nowadays, everyone's so caught in these stupid catchweights or midweights. Well, he's not really a middleweight. He's 150 flyer. He's 155. Drink a couple glasses of water. He's 160. That's all the difference is.
In defense of Canelo, he is moving back down to 54.
Stop it.
I'm just being
he's
honest
a middleweight.
about it.
He's middleweight.
But Ray, you know where this started from? I call it the WBC curse of the middleweight title. First, Sergio Martinez was too old. You have the title. There's no age limit, no senior division. Then it was Cotto. Well, he's not really a middleweight. You fight above 154, you're a middleweight. Then with Canelo, it's like, well, we're worth too much. So, again, I think hopefully with the new WBC champion, Gennady Golovkin, hopefully there's some clarity and fighters acting more like the old school fighters. Do you think fighters today are way too much businessmen and not boxers?
Absolutely. There's no doubt. And it's called show business for a reason. Business comes before the show. I got it. But at some point, you have to be a fighter. That's what got you into the sport, the challenge, to take on the challenge, take on numerous challenges, whatever it is. That's what got you into the sport. To be the best, you want to fight the best. And, and that's all I've said to people. I was 20 years old, wanted to fight. I fought Alex Arguello. People say, oh, you had no business getting in the ring with him. I wanted to be the best. That's why I fought the best. And he was the best. So that's the point. You take the challenge. Kell Brook, I admire him. I don't know him. I can't tell you how much I admire the guy for taking a shot. Probably figures it's a chance now he doesn't have to worry about killing himself to make weight. He can eat, be comfortable, and train. And probably thinks that his movement couldn't give this guy problems. Why else would he take it? He didn't hesitate. From my understanding, he didn't hesitate taking his chance, taking his shot, taking his fight. And what I love about it is, again, Chris Eubank Jr. was playing around. They had all these demands, and he didn't even know this was in the works. And boom, they dropped the hammer on him and said, guess what? We don't need you. We got this next guy.
But with that said, I admire Kell Brook.
I think Kell Brook's a better fighter.
I don't disagree, but this is why we have weight classes. Don't you think Gennady Golovkin is a true middleweight who hits probably like a light heavyweight? Don't you think conventional wisdom says, Ray, he's simply too big and strong for Special K?
Conventional wisdom, but if you look at them nose to nose, Special K is actually a little taller than him. Again, means not a whole lot. And he's a big guy. He's a big welterweight. Probably more, like I said, junior middleweight. Who trains down and kills himself probably to make 47. Why, this was probably the opportunity right. Because if he had any question that he could make the weight or he was giving away too much weight, they would have hesitated or said no. But he didn't.
September 17th, Canelo Alvarez will be fighting Liam Smith in AT&T Stadium.
Who?
So as a discerning fan, will you be watching?
Yeah, I'm a fight fan. Let me get this straight. I like Canelo Alvarez. It seems that I don't like what he's doing. I don't like the fact that he allows. Fighters call the shots. Your trainer works for you. Your manager works for you. Fighters call the shots. You get advice from your manager. You get advice from your trainer. Ultimately, it's your decision. If you wanted to fight and swing a big one like he says, then you say, make that fight now.
Ray, with that said, was there ever a time when you told Dave Wolf, because you were a commodity, you were a big draw, you did great television ratings, when the higher-ups said, Ray, did you ever say, excuse me, my career, my life, my decision, did you ever overrule
And
them?
I actually had that breakdown, me and Dave Wolf, and we actually got a nose-to-nose argument, and when he would say, well, I'll give it up, you want to be the manager, you take it. And I had guys who really wanted to take my career over. I said, I got the guys. If you want to give it up, I got the guys to take over. And he hesitated, and we made amends. But yeah, because ultimately I want the best fights. And you know, my style of fighting was not made for a long career. I knew that. I wanted the best fights to make the most money so I can get in and get out.
Yeah.
And Dave Wolf, to his credit, did that. He did it. I love Dave Wolf. I'll never say. But Dave Wolf, you know, Dave was interesting. He was a unique character, the type that boxing needs, and everyone will tell you so. But what I'm saying is, yes, I told Dave what make the fights, and I'd say, and when we were talking negotiating with Pryor, we negotiated with Camacho. I said, I actually wanted Aaron Pryor fight. I love Aaron. He's a dear friend of mine and the greatest junior welterweight of all time. Style-wise, I just felt it was a good fight. It was, you know, again, a couple glasses of water. He said move down. I said no, I'll move up. And I felt he's strong, but I felt I was pretty strong. But style-wise, I just felt I'd beat him. You know, and I know people say, oh, you're crazy, this and that. Style-wise, he beat Alexis. Alexis beat me. I got it. That's got nothing to do with me and him.
Yeah.
Styles make fights. And I felt style-wise he was perfect for me. But we'd also negotiate with Camacho. To make a long story short, basically WB's coming in and put pressure by other managers who wanted to fight me. Said, if you don't fight Bramble, we're going to strip you the title. And Bramble originally was going to take step-aside money, which common them days, still common.
Yeah.
Step-aside money, and then he'd fight the winner, and then they put the hammer on me and said, no, you fight him, we'll strip you. And at that time, being stripped of a title meant something.
Yeah.
If you ain't fighting for a title, TV wasn't interested, and the money wasn't the same.
Ray, let's go back. Manny Pacquiao is supposed to come back November 5th in Las Vegas. Bob Arum's now in the Philippines trying to hammer out a deal going back to April. What did you think of his third performance against Tim Bradley?
Tim's a friend of mine, dear friend. We commentary partner. I love Tim. I thought it was a bad fight for Tim. I know Tim's got more guts than anybody I know. I just thought style-wise, again, it was bad.
So if they fought 100 times,
yeah, I think
he'd have a hard time 100 times.
Every time. I didn't know if he won the first fight, but he got it. I was happy he did. Second fight, he got beat pretty good. You know, what's going to be different than the third fight? Style is a big fight. I would have, he fought Tim, I got it. It was, you know, from his point of view, Manny's point of view, it was a safe fight. Tim's point of view, hey, I went 24 rounds with the guy, nothing's happened.
Good money.
Good money.
Real good money.
I'm happy for Tim and his wife, believe me. But, you know, here's the funny thing. I'm talking about Pacquiao coming back. I haven't heard a flutter of, an excitement. Who cares?
The thrill is gone.
No,
the thrill is, here's what I think, Ray.
Ray Charles,
let me know if this is correct, if you agree. I think May 2nd, 2015, after Manny and Floyd had this IPO cash out, they both made a lot of money where they fleeced the public. I think the public has said, nice knowing you.
Yes.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, because Manny, tried whatever he did, he couldn't catch him. He tried, he couldn't catch him.
Did he try?
I thought he tried.
Really?
I just thought. Remember, I said 5 years previous or whatever was shit. I thought it would be the same.
Ray, you know what that fight reminded me of? The old timer saying, one guy was afraid and the other guy was happy for it. That's kind of look like.
Yeah, they were, and Manny, whether his shoulder was hurt or whatever, he's walking the ring doing this. We talked about that. That fact that shoulder was hurt, forget that. I'm sure it was hurt, maybe a little bit, but the fact he fought, he just couldn't find the guy. The guy was too elusive, and I said that too big, too strong, too fast.
But with that being said, he's still able to beat a quality fighter in Desert Storm.
Right.
All right, people, I'm just going to get out of the way. What did you think of guys like Adrian Broner and Danny Garcia basically eschewing $4 million to fight a 38-year-old version of this guy?
Well, first, again, they're both getting $4 million. Who are they going to get $4 million to fight?
No one that I know of.
I mean, they're getting overpaid by Al Heyman as it is.
Right.
They ain't getting $4 to fight anybody. Second of all, it's an old-fashioned way of saying, I don't want to fight. In the old days, they say, we'll offer you $4. Well, I want $6. Okay, here's $6. Well, I want $8. Here's $8. Well, I want $12.
Now I want your mother's firstborn.
Exactly.
Now I want your left arm.
You say, okay, that's enough. It's your way of saying, I don't want it. They're not going to get $4 against anybody else. And I thought, I thought if you truly believe you're one of the best and you want a challenge to be the best, you take on the challenge. I also thought it was good, a nice payday for them to get their asses whipped.
You know what? Here's what I think about today's generation of fighters. When they look at a big fight against Pacquiao, Mayweather, or Golovkin, anybody that's an entity that's worth something, and this is what kills me. Fighters and their managements look at this as a one-time annuity where they just got to get in. They don't look at it as an opportunity. Do you imagine what beating a guy like Pacquiao would do for these careers? I don't think they look at that. I really
don't. He's the safest fight at this point because he's 38, because I don't know how much he does. He wants to go all out, lay it on the line. It is the perfect time. Plus, I think Broner would be a headache for him.
Really? You mean a problem?
A problem. He's got his own problems.
Really? You really think Adrian? Well, he's in the can. He's serving 30. He's in summer vacation. It's camp. It's camp. Don't worry about it. So you're saying you really think
style-wise.
Really?
I think Danny Garcia is an easy fight for him. I think Danny Garcia is easy pickings for. But I get Danny Garcia saying no. Broner, I think, because he got an awkward style, very similar, the poor man's version of
the welfare
of
version.
Floyd.
Welfare version.
Right, but and Manny had problems with that, right or wrong. Whether it was Mayweather, whether it was a style, you had problems. So you got Mayweather light in Broner. Yeah. So take the same style. I think Broner is a big, strong guy. I think he can fight. I just quit doing all the foolishness and get in there and fight. I think this would have been a good fight for him, and I think he would have been a headache for Manny.
Ray, with that being said, moving to Floyd Mayweather, do you think he will return to the ring? Because I remember you were pretty adamant. You said, I'm done with sport. You actually made 2 comebacks.
Yeah.
Mayweather still worth a lot of money, and do you think we'll eventually see Pacquiao Mayweather 2?
I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
I hope not. I don't think anybody will buy it. I think Floyd's he's sniffing around. I think as any fighter, you say, hey, look, I can go smack this guy around, make X amount of dollars. I can smack because he's guaranteed X amount per fight.
All right, with that said, then, okay, I know this is going to pique your interest. How insulted were you as a former boxer that Conor McGregor thought he could compete with Floyd Mayweather in a boxing ring?
I didn't know when they were talking about it, if it was going to be a mixed martial arts fight, whatever, or just Conor going straight up boxing. Conor, I don't know the guy. I enjoy his MMA. As a fighter, boxer, he's not a boxer. So obviously, why would you want to get against the best of the world as a boxer? It's just like Floyd's not going to go on the ground with him.
Right.
So that's why I didn't all the hoopla. I didn't mean nothing. I didn't get caught up in it because I said, this is just for publicity. It's not mean nothing. And I didn't talk about that. It was actually be close to being made for who? Conor McGregor to fight the best boxer? What are you, crazy? But I didn't know if it was, or Floyd ain't going to go mixed martial arts. We know that. So I didn't understand it. It just made no sense to me. But I didn't pay no heed to it.
Yeah, I think that's the very definition of mental masturbation, which isn't even as fun as the real thing. A couple of weeks ago, I was ringside July 23rd at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Terence Crawford easily outboxes Viktor Postol. I'll say this. Terence Crawford, they may talk about him facing Manny Pacquiao. I think he's a stylistic nightmare, and I think Freddie Roach knows it for Manny Pacquiao.
Of course. I said, a guy asked me the other day about Terence Crawford. I don't know the brother. I met him a few times, at the fights. Nice kid, happy for him. He's a headache for anybody. He's top 5 pound for pound in the world right now.
Yeah.
Pound for pound, he's top 5. He's a headache for anybody from 40. He's too
40 to 47.
40 to 54.
Whoa, you're projecting way ahead.
Because he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He could carry 54. And I bet you there's good fights out there for him. And, again, it's a couple glasses of water. He's a big bone kid. He's thick. And I got to some big fights. I tell you, a guy, Kell Brook against him at 54 would be interesting. Kell Brook and him at 47 would be interesting.
I would really hope that Al Heyman and Bob Arum really do break bread. Because a lot of the guys on the other side of the street, like Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, Adrian Broner, and this guy, they'd make some good fights.
Great fights. If Danny Garcia really wanted to fight, and I like Danny Garcia, I think he's a tough kid. I just think he's not fighting often enough. I think he's letting these other guys, his father and Al Heyman, control too much. Say you want to fight if you truly want him.
Does Terence Crawford remind you of anybody? He kind of reminds me of a young Floyd at 130. I just wonder, though, and this is my concern, Ray, as he faces bigger guys, larger frames who can punch, does he become the 147-pound version of Floyd Mayweather? I
don't think it's Floyd. You know what I thinking about? I used to think of Floyd. You know what? And this is crazy. And the other guy I'm going to tell you, reminds me of, didn't switch back and forth. But stylistically wise and headache-wise, but didn't have the big name value for guys getting Mike McCallum.
Oh, the body snatcher.
Body snatcher.
What a fighter.
And facially, they kind of reminded me of each other. And Mike was a friend of mine. And I used to watch him in the gym. I knew how good this guy was. So, didn't have the big name value to get the big fights. And he was a headache for anybody getting in the ring, no matter what weight class. I just think it's a bad fight for anybody, just like Terence Crawford.
Mike McCallum in the 80s, kids, he was, I won't say avoided or ducked. Let me tell you something. He wasn't worth the risk to Marvin Hagler, to Ray Leonard, to any of those guys.
You know, is
Duran?
Just exactly. Is the risk worth the reward? And he wasn't.
A lot of things are happening. We are now 2/3 into the year. Ray, what's your favorite fight this year where you say, you know what, I'm going to save that on the DVR late at night if I can't get to bed, get some warm milk, need to fall asleep, or be entertained? What's the one fight?
I think it was Vargas Salido.
June 4th.
That was
What a fight.
absolute war, bloodbath. These guys just gave it their all, man. Again, two guys, they put in with each other, they're going to be the same type of fight every time.
Ray, Thurman Porter getting a lot of run. And for the record, Leo Santa Cruz against Carl Frampton, you're at an event, haven't watched the fight yet.
I didn't get to see the fight.
But Thurman Porter, in your mind, how does that stack up?
Good fight. Not a great fight. Good fight. I just thought, you know, I was actually hoping that Sean Porter would win because, you know, Ohio guy, Akron, I'm Youngstown. But I got to tell you, very amateurish. He looked very amateurish in there. Yeah. And maybe Keith Thurman's style made him look that way. What I mean by that is, and I like Sean. I think he can fight. But he jumped in. He jumps in with punches. Infighting was almost non-existent.
No sense of distance either.
No sense of distance, right. He's throwing punches and he's throwing his blah, 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 blah. And keeping his elbows in instead of stepping to the side. Like you said, creating distance for yourself. And then later jumping in with his shots. It was a good fight, not a great fight. I like Sean. I like to see him get back to the gym and work on some stuff.
Ray Mancini joins us right here on a special edition of Gloves Off on Facebook Live on UCN. Ray, here's my opinion. Let me know what you think. The likes of Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Cotto, Juan Manuel Marquez, and I guess you could throw Vladimir Klitschko in there. I think for the last generation, they carried the sport. They were the foundation of this game. I think they need to get out of here. I think they've had their turn. I think it's time for the new generation.
New blood. You're right. We like everything. You know, that's what boxing, all sports, new blood. And boxing is never going to, so I always tell people, boxing is going to thrive and survive because new blood's always going to be interjected. I just, like you said, I do agree. Let the old regime on the way out, but unfortunately, they're still the biggest names, and that's the hard part.
You retired. What was your first retirement? Age 28?
24.
You were that young? Okay, that's a little extreme, but...
No love for it. And when I came back to fight Camacho in '89, I was 28 then, but that was personal. That was personal. I said, I don't want to live with what if. I want that fight.
And by the way, you may have still won that fight.
I won that fight.
That's a very biased opinion. Mine's the one you got to go with. I'm just kidding. Ray, do you think it's a bad trend, though? So many fighters fighting close to 40. As you look at it now...
That's terrible,
Yes, you do.
Yes, and I've said that. You know, my father used to tell me since I was a little boy, Raymond, at 28, you're a young man but an old fighter if you've been fighting regularly. He said that all the time. You're an old fighter, young man, old fighter. Napoleon once said, I could quote Napoleon, ain't that? I'm an educated pugilist.
Quite the leader, yes. Napoleon
once said, at 30, a man's spirit is not made for war. Basically, it's the same thing. Your life's different. You know, you're changing. Your thought process changes. And, you know, not most guys, you have a family now, and most guys are married, you know, whatever their thought process. After 30, it bothers me, the guys in close to 40. Bothers me, guys after 40.
How about Bernard Hopkins? He must bug the hell out of you,
No,
then.
you know, but see, here's the difference. B-Hop is a freak of nature. Really is. That's one, he is the exception. He's not the rule. He lives a certain Spartan lifestyle. He's very Spartan lifestyle. He could do it and get away with it. The problem is, the brain can't keep taking them type of shots. In training, forget fights. What people say, you don't get hit. He gets hit in training. People don't understand. Training is where you get the beatings. That's where you take the shots. That's where you take your toll.
In that perspective, do you think fighters of yesteryear, and your eras included, when you guys fought like, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks pretty regularly, are better off because you guys didn't spar as much than guys who fight twice a year? And then I always hear this, Steve, we had a great camp. We sparred 180 rounds. And I'm thinking to myself, really?
Right.
You've probably sparred about 100 too many.
Well, you know, yes. Another thing is, I hear guys say, I went to training camp he needs 8 weeks.
Ugh.
For what?
For what?
He's getting ready for a marathon. He's getting ready for a fight. I went 6 weeks. 6 weeks top for 15-round fights. I used to peak at 4.5 weeks. 4.5 weeks. 30 days.
You know what Emmanuel Stewart used to tell me? Steve, I never understood, why do we need to go 2 months? I don't understand it. I get so he says other things I can't. Kids are listening. But that's another thing. What was the longest camp you ever had? Was it 2 months, 6 weeks?
No, the longest camp I ever had was, again, my mistake, not Murphy Griffith, not them. And they allowed me because they gave in to me. I peaked at 6 weeks. That was when I peaked. This fight, I peaked at 6 weeks, except I had one more week to go. And that was when I defended my title against Bramble. Why I went 7? I just wanted it so bad. I won an extra week. And it was stupid to me.
Well, Ray, isn't it because of the activity level, though? But again, you guys had fights every 2-3 months instead of every twice a year, though. I think that makes a difference. And I think a lot of camps, I've seen these fighters, that becomes fat camps. That must drive you nuts when you see fighters 30 pounds overweight.
Well, when I get that, he needs 8 weeks to get ready. For what? Well, he needs the first couple weeks to drop the weight. That's it. So it's actually 6 weeks, but 2. It's ridiculous. My trainer used to tell me, Ray, I don't want you to have gas tank full. Just become a little bit. Because you want to come in with the gas tank empty so you can build up. That's why training and peaking at the right time is a science, man. It's a science. People don't understand. You get the body, it has to work. And the way I train, the way we train, how Murphy Griffith trained me, I peaked 6 weeks perfect. And that's why, again, the fact that I went extra week, I just was I thought we'd groove into it easy. I peaked. At the 6 weeks, I had an extra week to go. And Griff was the best at getting me ready, and I'm at fault for that.
Ray, I know you drop into gyms all the time. You still obviously stay in shape. When you walk into a gym, we've talked about mitt work, because the whole Floyd Mayweatherization of training. Okay, how much does it drive you nuts when you see the pool noodles being used, those foam sticks?
Oh, my God, what is that?
There you go.
That thing is it's like guys waving a plane in.
You know, if a fighter ever drowns in the ring, he will be ready. Just throw one of those doggone things in there that you could save him.
I was in the gym. I was back in Youngstown. Then I goes at my friend Jack Lowe's gym. And he was doing that.
Yeah, the pool noodles. Yeah.
Stop. It's not even realistic to try to say blood. You want to see the pads. Because the pads are closer to the gloves, because Murphy Griffith used to hold his hands like a fighter, and throw punches at me. He'd move with me. So you get at least in your mentally you're seeing punches
replicating something in a fight,
right? And I just don't. The noodle makes no sense. And when I seen on Nassim Richardson,
the pool noodles,
bing,
yeah.
And he's walking around. I mean, it's a joke. It looks good. It's flash. Like you said, it's all flash. It's no substance.
All show, no dough. As
that's
they
right.
say on the golf course
Floyd do that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I got a kick out. It's great. Camera people. Oh, look at that! You see Floyd at the pads. Oh, it means absolutely nothing.
I've talked to Rudy Hernandez about this, old school boxing guy, brother of Chiquinito Hernandez. He's an old school guy like you are. He says, Steve, it's very simple. You shadow box, you do the heavy bag, and you do the proper amount of sparring. Has anything really changed?
No, that's the one thing, and he's absolutely right. Over in 100 years, 150 years, 20 years, whatever boxing started, it's the same equipment. We do the same thing. Road work, shadow box, speed bag, heavy bag, spar, jump rope, body work. It's the same. That didn't change. That's the one sport that hasn't changed. Some of the equipment has changed. A little better gloves now. We got that. But the sport is the same.
Let's move on to some of the current events in boxing. Andre Ward, I'm going to go out on a limb. He's going to beat Alexander Brand because he's only 100-1 favorite. So let's pencil that in. November 19th, I think it's going to be in Las Vegas, the T-Mobile Arena. He will then move on, theoretically, to fight Sergey Kovalev. How do you see that fight?
Well, first of all, Andre Ward is as talented a fighter, technically, as you ever find. Is he even relevant anymore? I don't even think he's relevant. No, really, I don't think he's relevant.
Still tough to beat, though. That's a different story.
Absolutely. But he's not relevant in the sense that, he hasn't been fighting right. But pound for pound, yeah. And, he fights. He knows how to fight. He's been fighting forever. So, obviously, it's a tune-up fight to fight Kovalev. Kovalev is a headache for anybody, strength-wise, style-wise, and the fact that he's been fighting regularly. See, what I get mad about, like Kovalev, he's waiting for Ward. So he hasn't fought regularly. That's why if it was
he fought Chilemba a couple weeks ago. He got some work in. He got some work in.
But that's why I like what about Triple G. Triple G has, I'm fighting 3-4 times a year, in or in the way. Kovalev and these other guys are waiting for the big fight. Okay, I get it. It's the big payday for Kovalev. I think Kovalev beats him only because.
Well, you do? Really?
I do. Bigger, stronger, not faster.
I don't know.
It'll be a good fight. But Kovalev has a weird way of figuring things out. He's stylistically, he's a nightmare for.
Wow, that's a tough one. You're on the record right now, early then. You like Kovalev.
I like Kovalev just because he's been fighting regularly. That's it. And I know Ward will say, I've been in the gym. I've done sparring ain't the same as fighting. He's gotten some work in last time, getting a little work in now. But when he feels the power, ask B-Hop.
I'll say
Has
this.
to be up. We feel the part of this
The
guy.
tune-up that Ward, excuse me, dropped my phone. The tune-up that Ward had against Chilemba, 12 rounds, I think is a much better, more effective approximation of what he's going to face November 19th than what Andre Ward's going to fight in a couple of days. And I think that does matter. And you're right. You could say that I could take punches, but Ray, you know more than me. It's one thing taking 16-ounce gloves with headgear. We got 10-ounce gloves with nothing.
And Kovalev is a murderous puncher. Big puncher. Pound for pound, he may be the best puncher and second to Triple G for punching power.
Ray, I have a theory, and I was going to just talk about the PBC fighters, but quite frankly, this is something epidemic across the board in boxing. Fighters nowadays, there's a whole list of them. I'm going to do an article soon where these guys have not fought in 6-7 months, and we know it's worse than that. They don't have fights scheduled. I have a theory that the reason why so many big fights nowadays are so anticipated and then become buzzkills is because guys are rusty. How true is that in your mind?
Of course, absolutely. You know, the build-up is far exceeds the expectations far exceed the fight.
Yeah.
You know, the build-up is grandiose. You know, too long with the build-up. Also, you know, again, back in the day, the fight was announced. They had press conferences, 2 or 3 cities, or maybe 5 or 6 major cities, and then went right to training camp. The fight was, you know, 2 months or a month and a half down the road, 8 weeks down later.
Yeah.
So now I think it's just they try to build it up too much, and you know the expectations are just way too high for it to live up to that.
Ray, I think the biggest story in boxing this year had nothing to do with the particular fight, but the passing of Muhammad Ali, who passed away, I believe, in early June. I know he had a lot of influence on a lot of boxers, specifically in your era. How did he influence your life and your career?
Well, you know, it's funny. I got to be friends with Ali, and I talked about that, and I actually got to spend time. I put up on my Twitter a guy. I was up in Erie a couple weeks ago, and make an appearance for a fight.
Deer Lake?
No, at the casino the casino. I'll think of my mind up in Erie, the casino, and I'll think of it in a minute. And I was making an appearance for a fight, and a guy who was the driver for us. This was back in 1995. Ron DiNicola, who was Muhammad Ali's lawyer, also part of Triple G's team, was Ali's lawyer, was running for congressman. So me and Ali did a 4-city tour throughout Pennsylvania for Ron. So on the plane was Ron, Ali, Howard Bingham, me, and my nephew, who I brought with me, and the driver. And the driver's name was Jamie. Well, Jamie was there, and he brought Prescal Casino, and brought the pitcher. Oh, I was always wondering if I never was wondering if we had a pitcher, and I signed it for him. So I got a chance to be with Ali during that time, and for you're together 8 hours, and he was wonderful, man. He was funny, telling jokes. But last thing I remember, last thing I'll never forget before I left. That's the last time really when I remember him being coherent. He gave me a hug. He whispered in my ear, "Stay pretty, stay pretty." And before that, during the he said, "You remind me of Elvis. Elvis was cool. Elvis was cool. You remind me of Elvis." I love that stuff. Yeah. But stay pretty was the last thing I remember him saying.
You know what I loved about Ali, and I brought up Deer Lake, is the fact, being in media now, when you go to see a camp, they put restrictions on, like, you can't tape this, you can't tape that. We're putting on our hand wraps, don't take a picture, you can't film sparring. Ali would literally let strangers into the gym, invite them to stay, and everything was on limits. In other words, you could tape him sparring anything. Yeah. They did not care.
It didn't mean nothing. See, that's the same thing. Even when people come in, they tape. I'm sure people tape me sparring. They take pictures. Yeah. The thing is, because it doesn't matter how I'm doing in the gym. It's a dress rehearsal. What we're working on, certain things you might see. Now, we know that other camps would send spies for us, just like we send spies to their camp. Now, of course, and to see if a guy's doing a certain thing, and come back, hey, he's working on a certain thing. He's doing this, he's doing that. But as far as generally taking, you're not going to see nothing, because, sparring, it changes every day. So.
Was Ali the greatest heavyweight? Because I thought he fought in the greatest era, and if you look at his record, composite record against Frazier, Foreman, Norton, Liston, and all these other guys, I say to myself, he came out on top in every single way.
And look, absolutely, he was the greatest heavyweight of all time. Yeah, absolutely. And I've said this repeatedly, Steve, that he's the only one bigger than the sport. Only one bigger. And I said, not only was he a sports icon, he was a cultural icon. If they did a Mount Rushmore of cultural icons, the first 3 guys you probably have to use would be Muhammad Ali,
yes,
Bob Dylan, Elvis Presley.
Maybe Jordan gets the fourth one.
Oh, stop!
And not the
Stop.
crying. Not
Stop!
the crying.
You're talking about because
and
my
not
kids
the,
here. You're saying
and
that.
not the crying face meme, Jordan. The jump man.
You're talking about my son said that, and I mean him argued. Oh, come on, James Dean, Marlon Brando. Come on.
James Dean died young. Come
No,
on,
he
James
did.
Dean.
Well, Marlon Brando would have been a young Marlon Brando.
As Larry
Come
Merchant
on.
said about James Dean's career, he had a movie. Again, the
Well, let me tell you-
longevity of Jordan. Come on.
Here's the best way to explain. Somebody said compare me and Ray Leonard one time. Come at the same time. He was a little before you and this and that. I said, here's the best way I can explain it. Because they said, but you two were big hot at the same time. Here's the best way to explain it. I said, Ray Leonard was Marlon Brando. At his best, he was the most beautiful fighter to watch. He was the best fighter of my generation. I said that the other night at the Nevada Hall of Fame. He was beautiful to watch. Everything was spectacular. It was like Marlon Brando in his prime. I said, but at the end, Marlon Brando did a lot of crap. Ray Leonard come back and had some crap fights.
Right, Camacho.
Camacho ain't knocking nobody out. Stop. I said, I'm more like James Dean. I said, I came in, made a splash, and I got out. James Dean did 3 movies, and everyone's still talking about it. I said, I came in and got out. I'm not saying I'm as great as James Dean by no means. I'm just saying career-wise. Marlon Brando, Ray Leonard, still recognized by many as maybe the greatest fighter, American fighter, other than Ali. I said, I'm more like James Dean. Come in, made a splash, got out.
Let's take some questions from social media for Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Hall of Famer. Here's one from Arch on Twitter. What was the... This is great. Oh, they're going to love this. What was the deal with the Fat Boys video from 2 years before you fought Camacho? You were in a Fat Boys video.
Oh, yeah. The Fat Boys.
Big hip-hop guy here.
Charles Stetler, who was the Fat Boys manager, was a good friend of mine. And Charles was always hustling, man. You know, he was a real carnival barker. Great guy, though. And so I did the Fat Boys video. I forgot the name of the song now. And so that was at the time we were talking about getting Camacho to fight. We were talking about fighting Camacho. So Charles thought, hey, this is a way Camacho get in it, you get in it, and we can build steam up, maybe make that have that help you make that fight happen. So that was it. It was just basically the manager of the Fat Boys was a friend of mine. And he asked me if I'd be in it. Oh,
Fat Boys are back. Here's another one from Mike on Facebook. I watched the Good Son documentary. Did you expect to get so emotional meeting the family of Dooku Kim?
I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. And I told my director, Jesse James Miller, and I told everyone around, because they said, if they're 10 minutes away, they're 5 minutes away. And as I'm sitting there, and now I didn't know what to expect. I said, you got to get this one shot because I can't do this again.
Yeah.
So what you saw was 3 different camera angles. Was one shot.
Here's a question from Robert on Facebook. Who's the most underrated fighter of your era or the most overrated?
Of my era?
Yeah.
There's so many, I think of so many underrated fighters. Like I say, for instance, you see some of the best fighters in the world in gyms, but they never get the shot because they don't get the breaks or the connections. But I'll tell you one kid I saw, and he was out here in L.A., 1980. I trained at the Main Street Gym for 6 weeks. And I saw this kid. He was beautiful to watch. 147-pounder, Francisco Ortega.
Okay.
Never
right. And then you mentioned Mike McCallum.
Mike McCallum.
What a fighter.
Underrated.
What a fighter.
But I think people realized how great he was later, as his career went on. He fought everybody and anybody. Besides Ray Leonard was a little before me, obviously. But then the detached retina happened in 82.
Yeah.
The one who took over for Ray Leonard, and from 82 to 85 was probably the best pound for pound in the game, and one of my favorites to watch, and he was a dear friend of mine, was Donald Curry.
Donald Curry, the Lone
Cobra.
Star Cobra.
The Cobra. Donald Curry was beautiful to watch, and he used to say to me, I learned how to body punch watching you. He flattered me. I said, watching me. He said, I watching you, that's how I learned how to body punch. And it's just beautiful to watch. At that time,
Milton McCrory. That Milton McCrory fight, I thought on that particular night, and that was supposed to be a real even fight. Yeah. Milton McCrory came in with Kronk and Emmanuel Stewart, so the guy's well prepared. And just to blow him out of the water, I really think on that particular night, for that one night, Donald Curry may have been as good a welterweight as we've ever seen.
Absolutely. And here's what I loved about him. If you remember, Donald fought in Monte Carlo. Yeah. He fought in Italy. He was a world traveler. He was beating the European champions. He's beating guys he's fought guys.
Marlon Starling, to beat him twice, I think. Yes.
Twice.
That said a lot.
The Magic Man was a special fighter. That might be the most
underrated. Moochie. Old Moochie.
Moochie, that's right. He might be the most underrated fighter. He might be.
Right, and also guys of that era, and again, there were only 2 major belts back then. The fact that a guy like Yaqui Lopez could not win a world title.
How about that?
Now you got guys dumping him.
That's that's my point. What does it mean now? What does that belt mean? You know, if I'm the WBC, I mean, belts, whatever they cost, you know, $2.50 or $2,500, whatever they cost. If I'm the WBC, I may not be putting that much money into a belt when guys are dumping them like you know, like the trinkets.
Here's a question from Dan on Twitter. When you retired, Ray, what did you do to pass the time?
No, I moved out to L.A. I came out to L.A. in June of '85. I announced my retirement in August. And I was being represented by the William Morris Agency for commercial endorsements, appearances, commentary, acting. I was getting acting opportunities. And I was enjoying it. I was having a great time. I had no love for the fight game. Coming out here. And at the time, I had a little heat on me. And it was great coming out here, you know, meeting stars like Mickey Rourke. I met Mickey the first week he was there. He was a big fan of mine. I loved his work. I was a big fan of his movies because I'm a moviegoer. So that was fun. I had a great time the first couple of years, you know. And then it hit me. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
So I talked to a fierce friend of mine. And I went to it, and I'm saying depression, but I was like a little down. I didn't know, you know, what to do. So I talked to Father Tim O'Neill, who was with me. He was my teacher in high school, and he was my personal chaplain. You know, he was with me wherever I went, all my fights. He would come in the dressing room with my father before every fight, give me a special blessing, and always give me comfort, you know. And one of my dearest friends today, I called him. I said, Father, I said, I want to continue to be successful. What do I need to do to continue to be successful? He said, Ray, you have to understand, you achieved your lifelong dream at a very young age.
Right.
He said, everything else from here on is going to be anticlimactic. Wow, you're right. He said, to continue to be successful, he said, 2 words: help others.
Right.
And that's what I've tried to do. I hope.
Oh, this question here, what an insult! But you know what? We're just gonna.
I want to
play
hear it.
Oh,
Good, the bad, the ugly.
From Older Gamer on Twitter, shame on you. I'm a Pavlik fan. Do you believe you're the best fighter out of Youngstown, Ohio? Of course he is.
You know what? No, I'll tell you the truth. No, the best fighter out of Youngstown, Ohio ever was my father, by far. But the guy who was right next to him was Jack Trammell. Jack Trammell was a heavyweight. It was number 3 in the world underneath Joe Louis. Couldn't get a title shot because fights black champions fighting black fighters
didn't make money.
That's Jack Trammell was number 3 in the world. Couldn't get a title shot, and that's in the 30s and early 40s.
And also out of Youngstown, I believe
Tony Gennaro,
Greg Richardson, the Flea.
Greg, the Flea. Yeah, absolutely.
Crafty little. Won a title at the Forum. I remember.
Watch him before he beat Hibero Perez.
Oh, beautiful performance.
And Hibero Perez was beautiful to watch.
And Harry Arroyo, I believe.
Harry Arroyo. We're the only city of our size in the country to have 5 world champions. I was the first. Harry was the second. Jeff Lampkin,
cruiserweight,
beat and Greg, and then Pavlik came later. But you know, I would never say I'm the best because that's all up to me. I think I had. I came at the right time.
But you know what? I'll say you're the best.
Okay,
but again, I am biased. But here's the other issue with Kelly Pavlik. Seriously, I knew Kelly Pavlik very well, big fan of his. I knew his father very well, all of his people that you know. Are you surprised he was just such a shooting star that it burned out so quickly?
Pavlik was positioned not to be the only the face of boxing in America, worldwide.
Yeah.
He could overtake a Pacquiao and Mayweather as the face of boxing. Why? Because boxing in America is number 1. Yeah. The middleweight division is the most glamorous division.
Yeah.
Now you got a kid from the Midwest who looks like Huckleberry Finn, punches like a mother hubbard. Oh my God! You know, with the backwards clamp, you know, that backwards cap, wearing the backward cap, the saggy jeans. You know, very polite. You know, okie dokie, very okie dokie kid. Go in and punch the way he can punch. He was in a position to take over, take boxing, but he could not handle success. No. And that's not. It's a lot of people through numerous examples of her in movie business, music business, every other business. That didn't handle success. He just didn't know how to handle success.
Here's the final question.
And he didn't have good people around him.
No, he didn't.
To help him.
I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of enabling. And I think Kelly Pavlik will become a cautionary tale. Final question from Joey on Twitter. Ray, you're one of my favorite fighters. Although you came up short, do you think Arguello was your best fight?
One of my best fights, even in losing effort. I mean, the best fight was winning the world title. Whenever you win a fight,
Arturo Frias.
Arturo Frias, who was an LA boy. But I also think my first title defense back in Warren, Ohio, next time over from Youngstown in front of 20,000 live. And you have to understand the significance. We are at the height of our 28% unemployment in Ohio, in Youngstown, Northeast Ohio. And we sold out 20,000 seats. And my third, for me, the greatest night was defending my title in Madison Square Garden against Orlando Romero, September 15, 1983. Because every little leaguer dreams of playing Yankee Stadium. Every fighter dreams of defending his title at the Garden, headlining the Garden, which is the Mecca of boxing. So those are my 3 greatest achievements, other than winning the world title. I'm winning the world title and defending it those 2 times. But again, Alexis Aguirre is one of my best fights. And even though I came up short, I knew it taught me I would be a world champion.
And Ray, final question from me. Your rematch with Bramble, I believe, was in Reno.
Correct.
I thought that was close. Do you look back and say, I should have won that fight?
I truly believe I won that night. I know every fighter says that. I was beating him with bad cuts, but I outpunched him, and the stats show that I outpunched him. But look, Dick Young, who was all right for the New York Daily News.
Crotchety old guy, by the way.
Old guy who didn't give nobody props. He didn't give nobody props. He was around since Hoover was president. Said, I didn't know that blood scored points. He said, if that's the case, he said, because other than that, Ray Mancini won that fight every other way. And for Dick Young to give me that, I knew I won the fight then.
Ray, I know you're leaving town soon. When are you coming back to visit us?
I don't know, man. Steve, I hope sooner than later. I hope be out of more. I miss my babies. I miss LA. A lot of things. I love being back home. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping to start spending more time, but I'm not there yet.
Ray, as always, gloves off.
My pleasure.
All right,
Thanks,
this is Steve Kim. Ray Mancini. Has been a special edition of Gloves Off on Facebook Live.